Okay, we're putting the pattern together. After you print off your PDF, you're going to organize your pages according to columns. And on the bottom, it'll say column 2 or 1. So put all your 2s in one stack and all your 1s in one stack. Okay. Then you notice on the bottom also it'll have rows. You see row 1, row 2, and row 3. And some will have row 4. But this is a small one I'm printing out right now. We're taping out. So, best way to do this pattern is to match up the lines. So you want to go with row 1, column 1, row 1, and attach it to column 1, row 2. And attach it to the obvious points, such as, which makes sense to you. I'm trying to make a little so you can see it. So I'm just gonna do like that. Now you could match them up to the little triangles or half moons or quarter moons. But I like to just take them and put them together with the lines, especially with such a simple pattern. And just a little tape is needed, not long pieces. Again, trying to line it up even. But if it's not perfect, don't worry about it, because you can always just kind of eyeball it and everything. And you can always reposition, like I'm going to do now. And so I wanted my unfold line more straight. So I'm going to go with that, taping that down first. Okay. And these are on, I printed mine out on 11 by 8.5, you know, typical letter size paper. And you want to do it at 100% printing. These patterns don't have that little square that you can use, but it should print out pretty good. Also on these patterns is to the maximum size of the small and the large and the medium and the extra large. So if you're smaller than the maximum, then you know you're okay. But if you're bigger than that, you need to go up a size. Okay? And then if you're at the top of the line right there, which I would be, and I need to add a little bit more. It's easy to add to the sides to give you that extra. Okay? But you don't want to put it on the fold side. Add to the fold side. You want to add to the side. If that makes sense. And I'll point it out to you here in a minute. You do not want to add it to the part that says center fold. Okay? Center front. Okay, and it say place on fold, and where it says that, you don't want to add to this side, but you want to add to your sides. Okay, and you can even take that all the way up into your arms if you feel some need to have more coverage. Okay, also on these patterns they have a funny little indentation right here, but don't worry about it. Just cut it out and you still sew it like you would sew a normal top. After you get finished taping it together, you just cut your pattern piece out. Real simple. Takes you a couple minutes to do this, and you have a nice little pattern that you can keep. Now, if you want your pattern paper to be thinner, you can always get the thinner paper, tissue paper, and transfer your drawings onto that. This particular pattern has a 5/8 seam allowance, which is kind of a lot for a top that has two-way stretch. But I just gave that a little extra. Okay? And you really should be able to make this out of about a yard of material. Make sure this pattern has been designed for a two-way fabric. You could use a two-way stretch fabric. You can use a four-way stretch. But if it doesn't have a stretch, this top will not fit. It has to be at least a two-way stretch. Okay? Like I said, when I designed it with the idea of two-way stretch material. Okay? And you cut around the lines. Let's see what else I need to tell you guys about this pattern. Just have a good time with it. I make them up using my serger. And my cover stitch machine. And it takes me no time at all. Maybe 15 minutes after I get it cut out. And it takes me about 5 minutes to cut it out. Okay? And you really want to cut close to the line because you don't want to take your good shears that you cut your fabric with and cut on any type of paper, even the pattern paper, especially this type of pattern paper, which is just regular paper. It's just my preference for this particular kind of pattern because I make it up a lot and I use weights on it. So, here we go. It's the front. You do the same thing with your column 2, which will be the back of the tank top. Thanks for watching. Okay, everybody. This is my material. It is a tube material. So that means it's one solid piece with two edges. It's just a tube. And I got it at Joann Fabrics. I try to catch everything on sale. I usually use the coupons, 40 or 50% off the markdown price. Not the markdown price, original price. Or sometimes they'll have it on sale. I make mine extremely long because I'm a very tall woman. But you guys can make them the length of the pattern. I make my own pattern longer. So it would fit me and the way I like them to fit. This is a body conscious tank top. So you'll see the indentation for the waistline, okay? Now you want to put the parts to say place on fold on the fold. So this part with a little black line there will go directly on your fold. And like I told you earlier, I'm going to place tack them down with weights. Okay, and I will continue to lay this down and make sure you keep your whole thing on the whole line that says on the fold, exactly on the fold, so your neckline will be right. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing with the other side. Gotta make sure it's placed, the part that says place center front on fold. Okay? And I think I was saying Crafty Gemini has a great tutorial on how to make your own weights, and because they can be very expensive. And whenever I can get away with doing weights, I do, to avoid having to that time for pinning. Okay, so we want to make sure our pattern's down laying flat as possible. And the way to get the puckers out is just to smooth it down. Same thing at the top. And let's see, there's extra one right here. Then I proceed to take my cutting wheel and cut it out. Very simple. I buy a yard of fabric, so I make mine 36 inches long. Especially because I do not, what do you want to call it? Pre-shrink this material. So just in case it shrinks lengthwise, I have it. But this material is a 4-way stretch. Even though I'm designed the pattern for a 2-way stretch material, it can be easily converted to a 4-way stretch. So once I get it cut out, which is going to be another 2 seconds here, and I'll meet you at the sewing machine. Okay, you guys, we're back sewing. And I'm going to use my serger and my cover stitch machine. And to do this, but you can also use a regular sewing machine with a zigzag stitch, or some stitches, some regular sewing machines have called a triple stitch, and that's for stretch sewing also. Also, you want to invest in, when you can, a walking foot for your stretch materials. And once again, Crafty Gemini has a great video on how to use these and how to work on stretch material. Okay? One point I did forget to tell you guys, do not cut down the center of the fold, because that's the middle of your shirt. It's the middle of the back and it's the middle of the front. So you want to leave that uncut. Okay? Do not cut the center fold. Okay? So now, we're going to take our back and we're going to match it up on the shoulders. Okay? We're going to match it up to the back of the back to the front shoulder seams. So the front, right sides to right sides. And we want to take the front shoulder and match it to the same side of the, so you left to left and right to right. But you want to make sure that the front is facing the front, okay? So a good way to do that, to make sure if you can't really hardly tell which side is which, is to mark them while this is still whole piece. You might put a piece of painter tape there, or take some tailor's chalk and write on R right side on it or something, and also on your pieces. But I leave mine folded too. I'm getting ready to do it. Then I know exactly where I'm going to be sewing in. So we're going to pin our shoulders together. Matching them up the best you can. This is sewing, not a science thing for NASA or anything. It's supposed to be fun, and we want to make it that way, because otherwise you're not going to want to sew. It takes you all day to do something, but you want to do it right. Okay, sergers are known for great for sewing knit. So I'm going to scoot this out a little bit. Now, if you have a serger, of course you know, I'm using white thread, because I felt like you guys could see it better, and I could live with it with being on a gray shirt. Okay. So, it's a very narrow seam. So, make sure you pin it, and if you're a new beginner, don't stretch your material while it's going through. Let the machine feed dogs do their job. While I'm doing this, I need to set my machine real quick. Medium. And differential is 1.5. So you want to set your differential to make sure it's for nits. And the only way you can really find that out, mine is a computerized one. But if you don't have one, your manual will tell you. Also, make test runs, okay? Test runs are girl's best friend. Take the scraps and see how your machine is sewn on your fabric. And make the adjustments to the tension and etc. to get it right, okay? So, I think I got everything set like I wanted, so I'm going to start. And do not be afraid to sew slow. Especially if you're a new beginner, because the machine can get away from you. Okay? And that's the worst thing you want. You don't want that. This is a serger, so it cuts as it goes. Okay? Then it's off to the second seam. Second shoulder, which is a seam also. Okay? And you just want to make sure your seams are together. And always, I saw some girls mention that they couldn't sew a straight seam. You pick a point and make sure your material is at that point that makes the seam you want. So I know I made my seam small, so I make it to a 3/8 mark. So I'm going to start again. Once again, I was pulling a little bit, but don't pull. Let your machine do the work. Now there's times you will want to pull. If you're making a lettuce hem or something like that, but that's not what we're doing today. Okay. I'm going to show you something. On one side, I kept it kind of cornered like it is on the pattern. The other side, I just cut it out. So if you're uncomfortable with that little funny corner, just go ahead and cut it to a point like you used to a regular pattern. So we're going to do the same thing for our sides. I'm going to start here, matching it up. Okay. And the most really important with this, since this is a body conscious tank, is to get that little end point, not the end point, the indentation for your waistline. Okay? And those 2 points, the rest of it, it'll match up on its own. Okay. And what doesn't, we'll make it okay, fine afterwards, okay? So we're going to start on our sides. Taking my time to put my seams back together so they be right. And go around that little curve for your waist. Okay, see how it's matching up at the bottom? And if it didn't, if you really want to, you could give a little tug, just very little, to make it match. But it's coming out pretty good. So it's pulling away, so I'm going to put it back on this track. I've been sewing for a long time. I went to Ball State University in the fashion merchandising program, which I learned how to tailor and all that. Actually, there's a lady teaching on Craftsy that went to Ball State, the same program I went through. But I went through way before her, because I'm much older. I have children her age. Okay. But my mother sewed, I sewed, my daughter kind of sewed. She sewed her finger once, and so she's not really hip on it anymore. Okay, this is our last side seam, and then we're going to move over to our cover stitch machine. Forget to stop. There's nothing wrong with stopping, matching up your seams. And I don't care if you just have to crawl, especially when you're just learning how to sew through the process. Just take your time. Also, a serger sews way faster than a traditional sewing machine. So, your walking foot will take a little longer to get through, but it will get through. It's a little loud, but of course this is awesome. Okay, now we're going to switch over to the cover stitch machine. And this just gives you that look that you want from a like a store-bought garment. Okay, and I just feel how much I want to turn it under. Okay, gonna turn it under just a little bit like that and pin where I want it to be, and I go all the way around my seams like that, okay, that I want to hem. Okay, no, a bent needle. Okay, where I just feel, because I've been sewing for 30 years, a person that's just starting out will want to use a seam gauge and make sure their seam is pretty close all the way around. Like I said, this is sewing, not rocket science, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be darn near, okay? But on a garment like this, it's really forgiving. And that's why it's so good to start with this. This is what I started my daughter out on, but just with a traditional machine. I also tried to instill in her how important it was to know how to sew by hand. A good seamstress knows how to put a good to sew by all the different stitches that you might need. So I'm going to continue on around in my arms and my neck, and then in my hem, and then I'll be back. Okay, now I'm going to get ready to start sewing my neckline. And I'm just going to show you me showing you, me sewing just the neckline. And then you can just go from the rest of your armholes and your hem the same way. Once again, you can use a traditional sewing machine for this. Zigzag stitching, okay? Let's see, raise my bead up a little bit. And I'm going to start on the seam where it won't be so obvious. Okay? And my objective with the cover stitch machine is to cover the edge of the sewing of my hem in the cover stitch, so it just kind of finishes off on the inside. Okay. See, I'm gonna switch pedals here. I have all three of my machines, which I have more than 3 machines. Here on one table. Okay. And once again, I match up my foot, the edge of my foot, to the edge of my sewing, so I know I keep it straight, okay? Once again, I don't mind taking my time to get the look I'm looking for. Okay? The back side is not so important, but it is. Fine garments are known for having great seams on the inside. You'll hear people say, oh, you could have turned it inside out and wore it. That, you know, it was couture. Or just great sewing. Remember, your walking foot, your stretch stitch on your regular machine do the same thing I'm doing with this cover machine. Now there's 2 needles in this machine. Okay? Some cover stitch machines have 3. Mine has 2. I didn't feel like I needed 3 since I don't do that kind of sewing for strength, like for workout garments and all that for the public. But I guess it could. Okay. I'm almost around my whole neckline. And I'm going to cross over just a little bit because that's the way I like to do it to ensure my seams are where I want them. Okay. This machine is temperamental in a little way about how it lets you pull your machine, your thread away. Okay. And I'm going to show the back part of it. This is the inside. See? And where it didn't catch at, where it caught, but it was a little bit more extra here. I can go through with a pair of fine scissors and just cut that extra off. But I won't be doing that because it's not that serious. This is a tank top. Okay, I'm going to finish up the rest of my edges and I'll be back. Well, it's done. And you can kind of see where it tucks in at the waist and everything. It does need a good pressing. And here's the back. Okay, the back looks like that. Okay. And I hope you guys enjoyed sewing along with me. And here's some seams and everything. So that's what a cover stitch machine can do for you. And yeah, just a good pressing. And just really one time because you'll be just throwing it in and out of the washing machine as you wear it. So thanks for watching and look out for my next sewing adventure.